Before I start this, and I'm not gonna watch the whole episode with you guys, but I will put the link to this episode in the description so you can go watch it and get whatever you get out of it on your own. But I find it very interesting some things that was said in this debate, or not so much a debate, a conversation. Um, and the general conversation, as you can see, is it is smart to have children. And that, that's an opinionated. That's something that can be opinionated. In the crowd, more people said yeah than no. And um, I'm 34. I don't have any children. I love children, but I never was in a state where, so far. So I'm talking about in the past. I don't know what the future holds. But in the past, I never was around children to the point where I was just like I said, I love children, but I never just was in a situation where I was like, oh, I just want to have children. I never ever actually thought that in my mind, like, ooh, having children is a dream. And especially the day and age we living in, of course, as you go on my channel, I got several videos about parenting and just basically common sense parenting. Of course, I don't have children, but just common sense things. And raising a child in today's generation with social media and um just how bad the world is at this point. If you gonna bring children in the world, you need to be fully prepared. This is why I say, some people feel, especially in the black community, we feel as though if you reach the age of 30 and you don't have children, oh, is a problem. Well, that's not really the case, especially for men, because we can reproduce until the cow jump the moon. But until the cow come home, rather. But women, they do have a certain window of reproducing, according to medical study. But we know God had the final say. Um, and with that being said, if you are going to bring children in the world, I feel like you should start at 30, because by the time you get to 30, you really like to learn your life. You didn't understand the ups and downs of life. You actually have something to pass down. I mean, I'm not talking about just for that financial number, but you actually have something by 30 mentally and spiritually and emotionally to pass down to your another life, because you've been on earth 30 years. You learned a lot, hopefully. And also, you probably more deep in your career at 30. You're more settled in life. You probably don't have an apartment anymore. You might have a home, and you either married, or you're starting to get to that point where you say, I'm 30. It's time to settle down and stop dating all these women or dating all these men, and you seem to know what you want by the time you're 30. You know what I'm saying? We have some immature people at 30, don't get it twisted. But for the most part, when you're 30, you didn't pretty much understand, even though you still may slip here and there, you understand life. You understand. Most of the time in your 20s, you really just don't understand life. This is why you make mistakes over and over again. The same mistakes with friends, at the workplace, dating, etc. And I've said for years, and this kind of like switch lanes, but I've said for years, you have to have a license to carry a gun. You have to have a license to drive a car. But they just let anybody leave the hospital with a baby, and I just don't feel that that's right. I mean, because you got a lot of people in this world today, especially in my community. And as this brother about to speak, I agree with everything he said, and not to toot my own horn, or because I always say this in a lot of videos, but he's saying something I've been saying for years. But I'm gonna let him say it. But what I'm gonna add to it before he said is, you got a lot of these people, especially in the black community, who they just bringing babies in the world. They bringing the babies in the world for all the wrong reasons. They bringing them here for more income tax money. They bringing them here for Section 8 housing. They're bringing them in for welfare. They're bringing them in. They're bringing them in basically for all the wrong reasons, more food stamps, etc. And I do understand some people make mistakes, and maybe some people got pregnant out of wedlock, and it just was So my thing is, if I was to ever become president, if I was to ever be in any situation where I made laws in Congress or anything, after one baby out of wedlock. Now, if you married and your husband passed away, or you married and the marriage don't work out, and you get left with 3 or 4 kids, which is he would be paying child support. That's the thing about marriage. You know, a lot of people say, well, what's the difference between me getting married and having a baby? Well, if you marry somebody, he got to end up paying child support 9 times out of 10. If he don't marry, and even if you don't marry him, you know what I'm saying, he's still probably going to be paying child support. I mean, legally, he still have to pay child support if you file. But I mean, you know, if he didn't marry you and he just put a baby in you, good chance he's not gonna be paying child support. But that's not here or there. And I'm not, and I want to be clear here too. I'm not bashing women either. If anything, I'm bashing our brothers more than the women because brothers, you gotta stop just spreading your seed everywhere. Because most of the time, in most situations, men do love their children, even though they might not love the woman or want to be with her. Once the children come in the world, they love their seed. And these women understand that the child is loved by the father, but he don't want her, and they'll use these kids to play all kind of games, and this sometimes don't turn out well. But that's like I say, that's not here. That's another video. But um, you know, bringing children in this world is not no just no. Hey, we're gonna do it, and that's what they're being rough. Matter of fact, I seen a post about a month ago, and a young lady made a post and it said I think I might be saying it a little wrong, but y'all don't understand what I'm saying. It basically said something like those 2021 babies or 2022 babies or something like that gonna be getting 10,000. And so everybody in the comments, a whole bunch of course black women, they say, "Ooh, we gotta get." And I'm like, "What? So we bringing babies in the world for income tax now? Children are brought in the world to love and nurture, teach, and grow into a successful another human being that can leave a mark on this earth or in any kind of way. Not just and this is what's wrong with the black community. You know what I'm saying? And the brother about to speak on that. We just have babies. These other communities don't do that. We have our children. 70% of our children are born out of wedlock. No, I think it's a higher number. I think it may be. Well, it might be 77, but I know 70 some percent of black children is being raised without a father. Versus, I think it's 50% in the Mexican community, and it's 25 or 30%. It's 25% in the white community. And when you having a child being raised without his father, I'm gonna give y'all some numbers here. A child raised up in a home, fatherless children are 71% high school dropouts. They're 85% of youth in prison, 90% of runaways and homeless, 80% of rapists with anger problems, 85% of children with behavior disorders come from fatherless homes, and 73% of all black children are fatherless. And this is why we have the situation that we have in our community with blacks killing each other, with they being killed by the cop because they don't know how to control their emotions because they didn't come up with a home with a man to teach them how to control their emotions. And so when the cop telling them, "Hey, get against the car," he giving them all these orders. The emotion that they got from their mama and their grandma and their aunties and their mama and auntie friends comes up instead of being a man and controlling those emotions and listening to the officer no matter how he say what he's saying, right or wrong. Let me listen to him because all I can do is make it work for myself. But those emotions come out because those emotions come out because you was raised by mama, right? And you know, children, and I want to be clear here, children can be raised by a single mother and still come out successful, but they gonna still be chemically imbalanced because why? It's just like if you got a foreign car, for example, if you got a BMW, Mercedes, or one of those type of vehicles, they take 93. They take 93 high octane gasoline. If you put 87 unleaded in a foreign car, and I know this because I had one, it's not going to run correctly. You're not going to get the full torque and horsepower out of it. It's not going to run correctly. And it's the same with a human. If this young man or young woman, right? And I want to add this too. It's the same thing if a young woman or a young man is raised by a single father. They're gonna be over tough. They're gonna be over. Now they tend to be more successful than children raised by a single mother, but they're gonna be overly hardened because they was raised by one parent. And so the energy that's put into them, like you put in a car, has to be even. It has to be the right energy for them to be, adult that has perfect not a perfect adult, but a adult that know how to handle emotion and know how to be soft when it's time. because the right energy was put in him by his mother and his father at the same time. And this is why two-parent home is very, very, very needed more in the world, but especially in the black community. But I'm gonna let this brother chime in. I'm gonna let this brother finish. I'm gonna let this brother say what he have to say, and when he's done, I'm gonna chime in.
Should continue to breed. Most of you said yes. Anton here, who's joining us, says a certain group of people shouldn't have children at all. Take a look.
I don't believe that poor people should be having children. Having children when you don't have money creates more problems for the kids and society at large. And let's be honest, it's the middle class and, more importantly, rich people that are now responsible for paying for poor people's children. I know it's an unpopular truth, but I believe that every person should pass a test proving that they're income worthy prior to having kids. It's a false narrative that's being sold to people that you're entitled to have children and you don't need the resources or the money to be able to pay for them or support them. Having kids is way too easy, and the people that's having the most kids tend to be the worst people in society. I think it's irresponsible, and just because you don't like it don't mean that it's not the truth, and you're not entitled to have kids just because you can.
Well,
He's telling 100% truth. He's telling 100% truth. I feel, once again, I kind of got off the subject earlier. If you have to have a license to purchase a vehicle, you have to have a license to everything in life. You have to be qualified to do it. You can't just do it. You can't buy a house without being qualified, credit wise, financial wise. You can't do nothing. To bring another life in this world, you should have qualifications. You should have to have qualifications. And like I said earlier, they should take away financial aid after the first baby out of wedlock. Now, once you, like I said, if you get married, we'll make an exception. If you get married, we'll have a kid, and your husband and you don't work out, okay, we'll help you financially from the government. But not never getting married, having babies out of wedlock, one baby. After that, everything is on you. Rent is on you. No Section 8, no food stamp, none of that. Now, of course, if I was, it still should be able to get, if a woman works, she should still be able to get income tax. But all the rest of those financial aid that basically is a reward for these women to have children out of wedlock, like I say, it's hurting the black community, shouldn't be done. If you have a baby, it should be a rule. Now, like I said, of course, I'm pro-life. I don't support abortion. But there's plenty of people in this world who can't have children. They got all the finance and everything to get these children a good life. They just can't have them. If you have a baby and you not financially stable, meaning you have a home, you have an adequate home, you have adequate transportation, and you have a certain amount of funds in the bank account, and a good job. This would be four requirements. If you didn't have those four requirements, you could not leave the hospital with the baby. The baby will go somewhere with a family that love him, and when you get yourself together, if you do, you can get your child back at any time. But these are the things that should be required for people to leave the hospital, because these people are having babies in the project and bringing a baby to the project, which is creating another degenerate to our society. So I'm going to let this brother finish, and I'm going to chime in.
oh, okay. What do you feel is an appropriate income for families wanting to have children?
Well, it depends on where you live in the United States, right? First. But more importantly, I think that it is important to acknowledge that the people that have the majority of the kids are the ones that shouldn't be having kids. And then that becomes a burden on the people that actually have resources, which we then start to say, take more resources from people that have, and then we become a socialist society where we start to pass out more resources, and then we babysit. We make our teachers become overglorified babysitters instead of being able to actually teach. Because if you've grown up in the environments that I've grown up in, even though we had resources, you realize that most of these environments and teachers and these kids become latchkey kids, and they don't have the resources. And then you take into consideration that inflation is at an all-time high, and it's becoming more and more expensive every single year in order to give a kid the resources that they need in order to be able to thrive.
Reproductive freedom. I think that's the most important thing we need today. Hundreds of millions of couples are denied their right to not procreate. But you were mentioning
how's that?
Go ahead.
How are they denied that right?
They do not have the contraceptive services, reproductive health services that they need. Those are not provided. And maybe people should supply their own, but they can't afford it because they're having more offspring that they can't feed.
Where's that?
Just about everywhere. Try to get a sterilization here in America when you haven't had kids and you're only 22.
That's true.
We're not allowing people to not
You
breed.
see people like that all the time, and you can put an IUD in. A copper IUD is effective for 10 years. It's inert.
Have you ever walked
Very
in a grocery
effective.
store and seen a lady with a bonnet on her head with 8 kids walking behind her? You think that she's being responsible? You think that she's really taking into consideration what she's supposed to do responsibly? You think that she's not on Section 8 housing? You don't think that we paying for her to house her kids, who's probably going to grow up and steal my wheels off my car?
Yeah,
I mean, it's a reality. I'm not here to tell people what they want to hear. I'm here to tell the truth.
How did we get to the wheels on you?
Because the people that are having kids are some of the worst in society, and when you put them in an environment and they have to be raised without the resources in order for them to be able to thrive, often at times they become the ones that we have to take care of. Whether it be the prisons that we build for them or the social services that we have to create for them, and they do not become more educated and do things differently, they breed more. That's what happens.
I disagree.
Shout out to this brother. I think his name Anton Daniels. Shout out to this brother for preaching the truth. The hard truth, like he said, that's what's gonna set you free. Not telling people what they want to hear. The truth. He told the unadulterated truth. He preached, man. Golly, he preached, man. Cause like he said, this is what's happening. We see it, of course, once again in the black community. The baby mama, the baby daddy, he round doing stuff he ain't got no business doing, in and out of jail, making babies. The woman raised the children no home. Guess what happened? They grow up. And the sons, they end up being degenerates like the daddy. My daddy was this. Then the daughter, what she does? She seen mama had it hard, but guess what? She seen mama was getting, eventually she learned the system and know, oh, you get food stamps. Oh, you get more money per kid. Oh. And then that's what they does. And it's just a revolving door until somebody say, you know what? I'm not doing this no more. I've seen it go. I'm 34. I've seen it go decades and decades and decades when all this foolishness started in the 60s, right? And they still, and it's getting closer and closer to them trying to make America a communist socialist society where it's more government and less family. And this is why just now we had the midterm elections, the red wave that the Republican did pretty well, but they didn't have the red wave that they was expecting, because women, especially black women, a lot of black men are more and more every day switching to Republican, but black women are staying on the Democratic side because the Democratic constantly lies, but they constantly promises giving up free stuff. And a lot of these women are single women, right? A lot of these women are single women. Of course, I don't believe women should be able to vote. That's not here. There, I got a video on that. But go check out my video. Women shouldn't be in leadership. But you got a lot of women who voting, and they voting strictly on help. They voting because they don't have a man in the home, so the government have become their man, and the government telling them, look, we're gonna make sure we ensure you be able to get your abortion, which is a lot of them don't want abortion, but this is something that gives them an out. They always want an out. A lot of these women, but especially black women, and the government promises them that they're going to keep their food stamp. The government promises we're going to build you new projects like Maxine Waters did in L.A. And the government promises them all these things. You know, back in the days before the civil rights movement, black people was about families, the nuclear family, and families was together, right? And you know, if the government was needed, we'll need the government here and there, but but now the black man have left his family, so now the government has moved in. It's basically like, I heard one of my boys said, he used the terminology that the government used to be sleeping in the basement, but the government has upgraded to the master bedroom and kicked the father out. And so basically these women are incentivized to have multiple children, because the multiple children, the more help is promised to them by the Democratic Party. Now I'm gonna let the great. Now they just so happen to have a guy that I really like. I don't agree with everything he say, but I do like his courage, and I do like a lot of the hard truth that he tells. Cause I'm a guy about truth, and I'm gonna close this video out. I'm gonna let him say what he gotta say, and I'm gonna chime in.
With all this crap that I hear, I grew up with 6 brothers and 7 sisters at a time when, I grew up on a plantation in Alabama, and we grew up in a little hut house, bathroom outside. And my family, raised an amazing family, children. But what the difference was then than it is now is that before you had babies, you got married. So you have the father and the mother in the home. And while the father's out earning a living,
I got a video on that on my channel. Go check it out. Marry before you carry. All races, but especially my women, the black women. Marry before you carry. As I said earlier, 73% of black children are being raised in single parent homes. These mothers never had a man. Never had a husband. They always was a baby mama. And we gotta always understand there's a difference between a single mother and a baby mama. A single mother is a woman who is a widow or was divorced. She had a ring at once in her life. A baby mama is a person who just breeds children, never had a ring. And that's 73% of our children are being raised in fatherless home. I'm gonna let him finish.
the mother was watching over his children. And so you were able to raise decent children. We didn't have government in our lives at the time. And so we were able to do that. And in America, we were not allowed all these illegal aliens and refugees to come into our country. So our government were not taking care of folks from other parts of the world and the families in America. We took care of ourselves.
I think you've pretty much pissed off everybody. But you said there's not anything you've heard that you don't think is crap. So what do you think? You said what you don't think. What do you think?
I know that we need to restore the family. We need a smaller government because government don't make anything work. They screw you up. We need to stop taking care of women who are having these babies out of wedlock.
Correct.
We need to stop taking care of these women who are coming from other countries. We need to stop taking care of their babies.
Okay,
We need to take care of American families first by getting them away from the government and restoring order.
Okay, you're a pastor, right?
Yes,
And you're a radio host?
yes.
Okay, and you said you believe white people should have more.
And I'm gonna finish it right there. And like I said, I'm gonna put the link in the description so you can go check out the full episode of this. But I just wanted to finish off by saying, I want to piggyback on the thing that this Pastor Jesse Lee Peterson was just saying, and we need to stop incentivizing foolishness. And you look in the crowd, these people making all these faces when the two brothers spoke, and it's because these two brothers were speaking the truth. And most of the time in America today, which is why we where we are, which is why certain people are hated. If you speak truth, you will be hated. Because most people have the spirit of Satan living in them. They don't know it. Not meaning they evil people. Because there's different levels of Satan. You know what I'm saying? There's levels of Satan where you kill people, hurt people. But there's levels of Satan where you might be a nice person, but you can't handle the truth. That's Satan blocking you from accepting the truth. Because the truth is the truth. It can't be changed no matter who like it. It's the truth. And everything Brother Anton Daniel said and everything that Pastor Jesse Lee Peterson said was the truth. So I'm going to close this video out. Thank you guys for watching. God bless.